Sharks are good for one thing, an argument. Some people say that they won't attack you unless you attack them, or interrupt them at feeding time. Others say a shark will charge the minute he sees you, that you're what he wants to feed on. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm a scuba diver, Mike Nelson, and I've run into my share of sharks. They haven't attacked me yet, but there's always a first time. And today, out here in the warm Pacific, might be it. I was looking for sharks. One shark, anyway, from marine land of the Pacific. Seems I'd found some. A couple were circling in. They were of a type known to have attacked men. One of them was eating some bait that I'd put out. He was biting off a big chunk with a characteristic shaking motion. My job was to deliver him alive to marine land. I'd have to knock him out first with a massive shot of sleeping medicine. For a hypodermic, I was using my spear gun. Its tip was coated with a sedative that wouldn't dissolve in water. All I had to do was get close to my target, hit him in some non-vital spot, wait for the sedative to work, and lug him topside. That was all. I was lucky. I hit him in one of the right spots and delivered him to another spot. Marine land of the Pacific. The organization which had given me the order to catch him. Next day, my shark was swimming in one of the marine land tanks. He wasn't ready to be shown to the public yet. But he was being observed by two uninvited visitors. And they didn't come just to watch.
Daddy, play it cool, play it cool. Just go.
Hey, Mike, look at your shark. It's dying. Hey, you two!
Traffic at all exits. Repeat, stop traffic at all exits.
boys were Cougar Norris and Jocko Palmer. They wanted to be tough. They'd had no reason for poisoning the shark. Kicks, they said. A vicious and criminal act. For kicks. We could have turned them right over to the police. Instead, we sent for their parents and tried to figure out what to do.
Look, you figure what it's worth and I'll pay you. Then take it out of the boy's hide.
You don't understand, Mr. Palmer. Paying for the shark will do no good.
And you can't just go out and buy a shark, Mr. Palmer.
I wouldn't know about that. That's your business.
Catching a shark, like the specimen the boys destroyed, is tedious and dangerous. It takes a great deal of skill and courage. Well, don't you believe that, son?
You got the floor, man.
Edward, I don't know what I'm going to do with you.
Ma, will you get off me?
Edward.
Just leave me alone, eh?
Edward.
What are we gonna do? You gonna put him in jail? Might do him some good.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, I certainly don't like the idea of putting a kid in jail, not if it can be avoided. I don't understand about you two. Tell me now, why would you do a thing like that, huh?
Look, Dad, if you're gonna put us in jail, go ahead, but leave me alone.
Hey, Coog, I don't want to go to jail, man.
Well, don't you think you ought to be punished in some way for what you've done?
His old man offered to buy you a new shark, didn't he?
And what about your old man? What would your father say about what you've done?
Leave him out of this. Just never mind about that.
Edward's father's in the Veterans Hospital. He's been sick for a long while. I suppose it's my fault the boy's so wild.
Well, putting him in jail is not going to accomplish anything. What do you fellas think about all this, huh? What would you like to do? You like to make amends? You like to replace that shark?
I already offered to do that.
That's not what I mean. Well, what do you say? Rather go to jail, huh?
No, I'm willing. How about you, Coog?
How? How are you gonna get a live shark? Go out and catch one?
Yes.
What? You mean go down and wrestle with one of them big things with teeth this long?
After proper training, yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
I could do it if I wanted to.
Isn't it awfully dangerous?
Oh, not really. If you know what you're doing.
Big deal.
Well, you couldn't do it, Cougar. If something happened down there, you'd probably panic, and that'd be it.
And what makes you think I'd panic?
Oh, that's wild, man. Way out. Cougar's got it right every time. Look at this job right here.
Wait a minute, poisoning that captured shark in the tank? You think that took courage to do a stupid thing like that? You're kidding.
Well, you think it takes guts to hunt sharks? Well, we'll hunt sharks with you. Anything you can do, we can do.
Hey, Coog.
We'll show him who panics.
Cougar claimed to be real brought down. But I think that he was more relieved than Jocko when I told him that we weren't going hunting right away. Certain preliminary steps had to be taken first, like learning how to survive underwater, which isn't so easy, even without sharks. That meant a concentrated short course in very practical scuba diving. Prerequisite? An A in swimming. Cougar and Jocko qualified easily. After they had mastered such fundamentals as clearing the mouthpiece and the face mask, we worked on taking off and replacing the whole breathing unit. They worked hard at learning all the rest that they didn't know. Not just because that I made them work. They were fascinated by the new underwater world. I've never had more determined students. In Cougar's case, bitterly determined. He hated me. So much that I think he'd have drowned before conceding there was anything that I could do that he, with a little training, couldn't do as well. Or better. They learned how to use emergency packs. balloons inflated with carbon dioxide. They learned to shoot spear guns with accuracy. Finally, I was satisfied that they had mastered the basic requirements.
How did you find out? You, Jocko?
No, I did. This session did it.
Did what?
You're skin divers now, both of you. All checked out, ready to go. Congratulations.
Hey, we're skin divers. We can start catching sharks now, huh?
No, now you can start learning how to catch them. Out here, about 10 miles out, around 60 or 50 feet down. Well, what do you say? Want to give it a try?
Hey, this is for real, huh?
You want to replace that shark that you killed, don't you?
Yeah, sure. Huh, Cougar?
If he says so, let's go.
Good. I got something for you. Something your dad gave me to give you.
What? 2-cent postcard?
No. A silver star that your dad got at Bougainville.
What am I supposed to do? Bust out crying?
On the way out to where I hoped we might find a shark from Marineland, Cougar said hardly a word. But then I didn't give him or Jocko much chance to. I was too busy explaining the use and abuse of a spear gun.
Man, ought to be to go up against the scorpions with a couple of these. Wow.
Shut up. Go on, Dad.
You won't be doing too much of that, huh?
I'll let you know.
Shall I continue? I've said this before, but I'm going to keep on saying it because it's important. And you remember, never point this at anyone, even if it's on safety. And even if it's uncocked like it is now. A good rule to remember is don't cock this gun until you're underwater with it. Is that clear? Everything I've been saying. Don't point this spear gun at anything unless you intend to kill with it. The lectures were over. Now it was time for work in the ocean. I didn't expect to find any sharks this first time out. For obvious reasons, I hope not to. I just wanted my students first to get used to scuba diving in open water. I also wanted them to fire their spears, the first few times anyway, at targets that couldn't strike back. The targets I had in mind, yellowtail, bonita, or some other food fish, weren't cooperating, at least not visibly. We'd have to go looking. So we looked over quite an area. It was good exercise, but that was all. Not one good-sized fish in sight. even though the last radio reports claimed these waters were boiling with them. The reports were wrong, or the fish had been frightened off, perhaps by sharks, or by other natural enemies. Despite my careful instructions, Jocko cocked his spear gun before he had a target for it. He stalked through the seagrass. Suddenly, a barracuda popped up in front of him. He panicked and aimed at it wildly. Cougar saw him. I didn't. Jocko shot his spear. Cougar shoved me aside and was hit himself. When I pulled the spear out, I saw that it had not inflicted a serious wound. His buddy, Jocko, had suffered both ways. In his panic, he had forgotten rule number 1 for undersea survival. Keep breathing out. Instead, he was holding his breath, building up pressure inside his lungs that might cause a fatal embolism when he surfaced. When I realized what he was doing, I had to punch him in the stomach to force him to breathe out. By the time we got topside, I was fairly sure that Jocko would be all right. But I wasn't so sure about Cougar. Not psychologically, anyway. What had happened could make him more arrogant than ever.
Get that tank off of him. Take his top off him, huh? Mate, I'm sorry. You know I wouldn't do you like that. Shut up! After all you've done for me, I gotta give it to you. You want to set you for good? Nothing the matter with me. I don't need all that jazz.
Yes, you do. A scratch underwater is dangerous. And this isn't just a scratch.
Okay, fix it.
That was a remarkable job you pulled down there. Thanks.
Forget it. I didn't want anything to happen to you.
I appreciate it.
Until I got my chance to show you, Dad.
All right. Gotta disinfect this. You showed me. You didn't panic.
That spear, you mean? I've never been afraid of steel in my life. That don't mean anything. But a shark, that I gotta find out about. Only this creep here had to foul it up.
Here, hold this. How do you do that?
I'm washed out now, ain't I? I can't die with a bum shoulder.
Well, not today. After I put a waterproof bandage on it, you'll be able to dive tomorrow. Cougar's spear slash healed well overnight. I felt safe in letting him dive with me again next morning. But I held back on Jocko. His lack of experience made him a little too likely to panic. And staying topside wouldn't break his heart. That was for sure. Cougar wanted to prove himself, all right. But I was out to capture a shark. So this time I coated our spear tips with a sedative drug and prayed that he'd remember to aim for some non-vital spot and not shoot to kill. We scouted the Barracuda's lair first, but he was gone. That seemed to be the story in the sharks, too. They certainly weren't within sight. I decided to give it another few minutes before heading back. We gave it 5 more minutes, but the sharks were still among the missing. It was about time to surface now. But not according to Cougar. Standing up to a shark seemed more important to him at the moment than underwater safety. But while I was trying to convince him, I suddenly sighted a shark. Now, I was curious to see just how eager he still was. He was more than eager. He cocked his spear gun and moved out ahead of me. Cougar was rushing it. I should have expected it, but I was still surprised. I hoped that his determination would guarantee a hit, but his near miss guaranteed trouble instead. Unless I could do better. From the way the shark was heading toward us, I knew that I'd have to do better. I cocked my spear gun and waited for my chance. I did do better. I hit him. But he twisted and squirmed and shook off the spear. I had no idea if the tip had gotten enough sedative into him to knock him out. And I couldn't wait to find out. Once I got hold on him, I didn't dare let go. Cougar hadn't run. I could see him waiting for his chance to help me. The shark knew that it was in a death fight, and so did I. I was losing. If the drug didn't work soon, I would lose. And then it happened. The massive dose of sedative on my spear tip was taking effect. The killer was falling asleep.
I really want to thank you, Ben.
For what? Haven't paid you yet. For Cougar.
What do you mean, pay us?
Well, you did a tremendous job. In this world, you usually get paid for what you do. I figure about $200 each. I'll take care of them when we get ashore.
Wait a minute. What are they paying you to bring in the shark?
Never mind.
I figure about $400. Give the dough to Marineland, Dad. We're buying them a shark.
I'll be back next week at the same time with another sea hunt story. Plan to be with us again, huh?
This device is an experimental underwater radio. I was transmitting a voice signal to my friend Chuck Ballon, the inventor of it. He was a member of my underwater flotilla in the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We were making some tests on the transmitter receiver, hoping to present it to the Navy. I had left Chuck a few hundred feet away. He was going to home in on my signal. It was taking too long. I was beginning to worry. Something was wrong. I didn't have much airlift, and that meant that Chuck didn't either. If he didn't surface soon, he never would. I dropped my radio unit overboard and rigged it to operate from the deck.
Chuck? Chuck? Where are you? I'm on the boat. Chuck? Where are you? I'm on the boat. Chuck? If you're in trouble, send up a signal. A flare, mark a buoy, anything.
I didn't see any bubbles within a reasonable range. I couldn't imagine why Chuck hadn't surfaced, unless he was in trouble.
Chuck, I'm going to spiral out. I'm going to try to locate your bubbles. If you hear me, Chuck, I'm spiraling out, and I'm going to try to locate your bubbles.
I was hundreds of yards from my starting point. How could Chuck have wandered any farther? Bubbles. Must be Chuck. But what was wrong? The bubbles led me right to him. I was so relieved to see him alive and well that I didn't notice how surprised he was to see me. He wanted me to listen to his unit. A clear signal was coming in, and it wasn't from my instrument on the boat. It was impossible for the signal to be coming in. Yet there it was. We were soon to find out just how sinister it was.
What do you suppose that is, huh? No idea. I thought it was your signal. I was trying to home in on it. What, 600 yards in the opposite direction?
600 yards?
Yeah. You better start looking at that compass of yours, boy. I thought I'd lost you for good. What could it be? Well, must have been your signal bouncing off one of the shoals. I've been using my throat mic. Anyway, I haven't used the URC for the past 45 minutes. Well, maybe it was some kind of above surface signal reflected underwater. I don't say it's likely, but it's possible. You didn't hear me talking, do you? No. I just tuned till I heard a signal. That's the one I got. Mike, something weird going on down there. How'd you like to do a little investigating, huh? You mean track it? Yeah, with the URC. We'll trail it over the side of the boat and do intentionally what you did by accident. We'll home in on the beam. Here, rig it for topside, huh?
It took a little while to determine our course, but once we established the direction of the beam, we maintained a good speed for several miles out to sea.
How's it going? Getting stronger. Hey, Mike, you passed the strongest point. You better turn back. Easy, Mike. That's it.
The signal appeared to come from a large bed of seagrasses, just a few yards away. We were certainly right on top of the source of the beam. All we could see was thick plants, more dangerous than we suspected. I indicated to Chuck that he should wait, while I circled out cautiously. Chuck had found some kind of a metal rod hidden in the plants. Before I could stop him, he had brushed against it. He was stunned by a heavy electric shock. I couldn't tell how badly he'd been hurt. He was conscious. That's all I knew. I saw something that worried me even more. It was a submarine, apparently heading out from shore. It had no markings. It was bottoming. Instinctively, I looked for a place to hide. Chuck was still not fully recovered. My fear was justified. A frogman from the sub was already heading our way. Luckily, he seemed to be looking for anyone. As he passed, I got a good look at the weapon in his hand. It was a portable version of the device that had almost electrocuted Chuck. The frogman manipulated a hidden switch. He moved past us again to the device that Chuck had found. Then he swam back to the sub.
He was standing where I stood. Nothing happened. He also turned off the signal. Come on. There. Switch. The electricity. No. It's off. Let's investigate. It's an underwater radio beacon. Condensers. They get power from the beacon. Electric gun. You set this off. Pow. Let's go up.
What do you suppose they're up to? Something they shouldn't be, that's for sure. That sub was heading out from shore. I'm gonna take another look at that shark. Now, here's our position now. Now, here's where we first picked up the beam. See what happens when we draw a straight line through those 2 points, huh? There, look where it brings us. Right there.
U.S. government property, restricted.
See, here's shoals on either side, except for this one narrow channel.
Yeah, that's exactly where the beam is aimed.
That beam would take a sub navigating an instrument so close to shore it'd be a cinch for a diver to go the rest of the way.
Oh, I see. That's pretty clever. When they come to this point, they turn on the beacon. Then they use the beams and navigate among the shoals. On the way out, they turn it off again. What could be simpler?
I'm more devastated. We better call the Coast Guard right now.
An hour later, we had explained our encounter to Commander Barney Adams of the Coast Guard.
It's diabolical. An underwater beacon is something a lot of people have been trying to perfect for years. But how did that sub get by our coastal sonar?
Oh, it's possible that it moved in under a thermocline. Sonar could have missed it that way.
Well, we'll soon know. The Navy's keeping us informed. We missed our chance to apprehend the sub, that's sure.
Oh, I wouldn't be too sure about that. Might have another chance.
Why do you say that?
From the looks of that beacon, it's been down there quite a while.
You think they're making regular trips? Pardon me. Hello? Yes, Tom. Well, what'd you find out? Well, how'd that sub get through? Mm-hmm. I see. No, nothing definite yet. We may need your help later on. All right, thanks, Tom. That was the Navy. No evidence of anything wrong at the installation. You were right, Mike. There was a thermocline at the time. The sub could have used it for cover.
So what are you going to do now? I mean, if and when the sub returns.
Well, the sub could get by sonar again, couldn't it?
Well, but if it navigates by that beacon, which it undoubtedly will, our URC units will pick up the signal.
Except we couldn't stay underwater indefinitely just waiting for it.
No. But we could set up a 24-hour watch on shore. I think this is the way we'd do it. We'd submerge our underwater receivers in the path of that radio beam. And as soon as the beacon came on, we'd tune into the signal. Maybe we should get it.
I feel it only fair to warn you that if you're coming up with a sound, workable plan, make sure it's very sound and very workable. Because I'm assuming I can tell the Navy that you two are going to volunteer for this job.
Commander Adams meant what he said. We were in this up to our necks, starting immediately. These men were members of the Coast Guard Auxiliary and my underwater flotilla. They were top-notch divers. Earlier that afternoon, we'd explained our overall plan. Chuck and I will be based here, near the research station, so we'll be able to intercept anyone going to and from the sub. Now, the moment that we contact you by radio, you're to proceed directly by cutter to this beacon here. And then you can just head in toward us, where Chuck and I are located here, huh? How's that clear?
Oh, one more thing. If for any reason you have to tackle one of those electric guns, just remember the charge is deadly. But they don't seem to have very big batteries. After the gun's been fired once, it takes time for them to build up voltage again. Not much, but maybe important.
Well, it is. Well, I guess that's it. You got any questions? Mm-hmm. Better report to Commander Adams right away, huh? Our listening station was a converted stockroom close to the beach. We had food, bunks, our diving gear, and amplifiers for our underwater receivers. On the beach, we connected our units to a long cable from the stockroom. When I placed the receivers underwater, we were ready for our monitoring assignment. Yes, sir, I will. Right.
What did the commander have to say?
What he's been saying for the last couple of days. When's it going to happen?
Well, it's only been 4 days. Why is he so pessimistic?
Oh, he isn't really. He's just concerned. I don't blame him. Quite a responsibility. It was several days more before anything happened. This is it. Come on, get up. Umpire to shortstop. Umpire to shortstop, over.
Shortstop, this is umpire.
Alert here. Any report?
Sonar negative. Thermocline conditions reported. Proceed with plan. Over.
Roger and out. Only a few minutes later, we were underwater. Our scheme had worked, but we had no idea what we'd run into. We figured that we knew roughly where the sub would stop. Our plan was to observe its activities, maybe even intercept a diver if we could. We spotted bubbles in the distance. A frogman was swimming toward shore, armed with the same kind of electric gun that we'd seen before. I figured that despite the gun, the two of us might capture him.
Let's follow him.
The frogman was joined by another, also armed. The odds were too much now against us. We'd have to keep out of sight.
Control your bubbles and don't move.
They were moving on past me. But they had seen Chuck. They were heading straight for him. I had to do something. I stirred up a cloud of sand and released a marker buoy on a short line. It worked. Both frogmen discharged their electric guns at my decoy. That gave Chuck the chance that he needed. While he wrestled with one, I grappled with the other. My opponent was skilled at judo. He pushed me off with a foot on my chest and shot the gun at me. The voltage hadn't built up yet, but it was enough to stun me. Then he turned to get Chuck, but he couldn't get Chuck without hitting the other frogman. I came to in time to see Chuck still struggling with one of them, and the other drawing his knife. I pulled out my knife. I had the advantage of surprise now and cut his air hose before he knew what happened. He wasn't finished yet. He needed air, fast. He went for mine. He tugged viciously at my mouthpiece. I was still groggy from the shot, but I held on. I heard the electric gun and looked up. The frogman was electrocuted. One of my flotilla men had found us and shot him with his own gun. He saw that Chuck had the other frogman as prisoner, so he helped me. We all surfaced together.
Thought I had it. I can't thank you enough, Pete.
Semper Paratus, Mike. Semper Paratus.
It's a good thing you were punctual. Another minute would have been too late. What about those divers? Who were they, you know?
Well, the one below that got it can't talk, and this one won't. He was an employee at the installation. Inside his wet suit, we found some microfilm with extremely important data.
And the sub?
Well, the Navy is... Well, the Navy is taking good care of it.
That reminds me. Do you think we'll have to make any more tests of this for the Navy? Once they get that sub, I think they'll be convinced. Hi there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Skin diving is certainly a lot of fun, and it's full of adventure. See some more of it again next week, huh? When there'll be another excursion into that fabulous underwater world of Sea Hunt.